Welcome to Poetic Justice, sponsored by Sparkling Toothpaste. Today the poet we're talking about is Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda was a famous Chilean poet known for his array of poetic works. He was a communist and showed it in some of his work, but he did not want to be known as a political poet. Communism is a political theory advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and means. Here today are three Neruda specialists coming to talk about Neruda's political, economical, and social beliefs. How are you doing, guys?
Hi, good, thanks. How about you?
I'm good. So we're going to first talk to our political specialist, Adrian. What happened to Pablo Neruda in 1943 having to do with his political careers?
Well, he was elected into the Chilean Senate and joined the Communist Party. But after he joined the Communist Party, communism became illegal and he got kicked out of the Senate.
Because of his beliefs?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Which poem expanded on his political views?
The poem that expanded on his political views is called Canto General, which, according to the Costa, is a lengthy epic on man's struggle for justice in the New World. He completed some of this poem in the Chilean Senate.
Okay. How did Neruda use poetry to help him in his political career?
He used poetry to expand on his political views and to show the other side of the political scale, as well as to inform people about communism and capitalism.
Okay. My next question is going to be for our social specialist, Aaliyah. In the year of 1937, why was Pablo Neruda's poetry directed toward political and social matters?
After the Spanish Civil War and the loss of his good friend Garcia Lorca, Neruda was affected by everything, and he decided to join the Republican movement. He started off in Spain and then later went to France, and France is where he started his collection of poems called España en el Corazón, which means Spain in our hearts in English.
Okay.
So he loved to travel.
I would too.
Sounds pretty nice.
My next question is for our economic specialist, Jessica. What are some economic views that go along with communism?
Well, in communism, the state plans and controls the economy. The economic system of communism puts all planning of the economy in the hands of the government. And in a communist society, ownership of property is distributed evenly, like no one has more than the other. Like, small businesses would be non-existent, and there were a lot in Cuba at the time, because like it was not a communist society at the point.
Okay. My next question is for Lee again. Out of all of his poetry books, which one expresses his political and social beliefs?
His poetry book called Canto General is his book that he discusses his political and social beliefs in. It's his 10th book of poems. He produced all these books while he was in exile, and in this book he has a total of 340 poems in all. Throughout these poems, Neruda talks about Latin American history from a Marxist point of view. He mostly discusses the struggle for social justice within Latin America.
So he had a lot of time on his hands.
Yes, he did. 340 poems is a lot.
He was in exile.
So, what else are you going to do? Okay, back to Jessica. Based on his capitalistic ways, how do you think Pablo Neruda would have wanted Chile to be run?
Well, since Neruda was a communist, he would have wanted everyone in Chile to be equal. No one to have more rights than any others. But like I said, at the time, it wasn't, and that's, I think, why he used his poems to express himself against the government and his opinions.
Okay, back to Aaliyah. Did Pablo Neruda agree with the Chilean government?
No, he did not agree with the Chilean government. He created a letter called Intimate Letter for Millions of Men in many of Latin American countries. The letter denounced the government policies against his work. And we all know Neruda was the type of guy who would speak his mind.
Got in a lot of trouble for it.
Exile and everything.
And he lost his job.
Yes.
Okay, he became one of the most famous poets. So he did something right.
Yeah, after he died.
After he died.
Okay, my last question for the night is for Jessica. What is the basic rule of capitalism, and why would Pablo Neruda not agree with those views?
The basic rule of capitalism is that everyone should be able to compete freely without the government interference or any interference from any outside force. Pablo Neruda would not agree with this because, as I said earlier, he was a communist and he doesn't believe that some people should have more rights than others. Basically, everything should be a fair, the same playing field. And it should be fair for everyone. Which is why he was very famous along the peasants as well, because he gave them a chance to speak up.
I think everyone would want it that way.
Would have won. Like with communism, I mean, what it says sounds good. It's just getting to that point that everything goes wrong.
Yeah, like it's good in theory, but the execution is bad.
Okay. So basically, Pablo Neruda wanted economic and social equality and used his poems as a way to express his opinions towards the Chilean government and society. Well, that's all for today on Poetic Justice. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week for an interview with a Homer specialist. Good night.